Everybody. Okay. So in South Africa, if you Google problems South Africa has and you look at the images, you can see that they are, you can see that we have some commonalities here. On the upper right, my right, not yours, we have a line of unemployed youth. They are waiting to apply for jobs. We have angry protesters who are protesting their lack of a job. You have skilled unemployed workers or semi-skilled unemployed workers, again, just trying to get somewhere, trying to make an income. And then we also have some service delivery problems. And you can see these kids playing in this water, which doesn't look very clean. So in terms of engineering, this is sort of our project brief that we would get on any project. So that's our problem statement, and this is where we want to be as a country. So this is our NDP for 2030, and our first two goals is firstly, create 11 million jobs, which is quite a large number, and number two, build strong infrastructure. Now these two are related in terms of the presentation that I'm doing today. And we want to get there by 2030. So we know where we know our problem, we know where we want to be. The crux of the matter is how. And over the past few years, over the past 3-4 years, we've seen increasingly more legislative come out, more policies, more strategies, more plans to get here than anything else. But when it comes to the point of implementation, the strategies tend to fall down because they are, as implementers, it's not detailed enough. You are still having to reinvent how am I going to do it? And there are many good initiatives which happen across the country, and many good projects where you achieve job creation, where you achieve service delivery, but then it sort of stops there. And then there isn't any further spread of best practice. So this presentation is trying to spread that knowledge, and hopefully coming out of this, we'll have more projects which, yes, have service delivery, build strong new infrastructure, but also have job creation for our unskilled and semi-skilled workers. Before I continue, I'd like to take a quick poll of the room. How many consultants do we have here? Hands, 1, 2, most of the people here, right? How many people do we have in the public sector? 2. I know there's some parastatals. Right, so this can't be done just by consultants, and it can't be done just by public, and it can't just be done by contractors either. It really requires a group effort and an integrated approach to rolling out projects like the ones that I'll show you. So the theoretical solution is called the Expanded Public Works Program, and I was really glad earlier today, and I think yesterday as well, when some of the speakers touched on the topic of job creation, they touched on the Expanded Public Works Program as being one of the things that South Africa is implementing as a way to create jobs. And as a definition, the government of South Africa wants to provide work experience coupled with training to deliver service during the execution of service delivery to unskilled and semi-skilled workers. So these are the people that we're targeting. That's our outcome, and then the job creation part comes with it. And in our infrastructure sector, and more specifically the transportation sector where I work, is that we do it by labor-intensive construction methodologies. I've said normally we refer to labor-intensive construction. However, I've come to realize that there is a sort of a stigma around the word labor-intensive construction. Many people, when I and my colleagues talk about labor-intensive construction, all the problems come out. There's striking on sites, there's people standing around not doing work, there's payment problems. As soon as there's an interruption in payment, workers go on strike again. Clients want to do it, but they don't have the necessary, I'll say, frameworks in place that easily allow you as a consultant to design and as a contractor to implement. So I've sort of switched it around. I've said, I've added on methodologies to it. Because as with any new technology, although this is an old one, yes, it's a way of construction, but the methodology is where you as a designer step in. And that's where your design needs to take cognizance of your methodology of construction. So it's the use of people instead of machines, only where practical, without compromising on quality. And this last one I think is quite important for us, because again, one of the complaints I get is, it's fine, you can have labor, they can do what you want, they can do what you tell them to do, but at the end of the day, you have to bring in a machine to make sure the road is at the right level or the right compaction. So again, the perception is employing labor is more costly, more time-consuming, more supervision-intensive. However, if you take into account your construction methodology at your planning and design stage, it then becomes much smoother when you get to implementation, and all the challenges which I've touched upon are mitigated. And the key point here is this concept of labor balancing, and I'll get into that more as we go through. So I thought that we've seen a lot of text over the past 2 days, and our eyes could use some rest. So what I've done instead is I've put together pictures of 3 pilot projects which the Department of Transport has been implementing over the past 2 to 3 years. 2 of them are still ongoing, 1 has since been concluded. This is Road D1613. It's located in the Inanda area of KwaZulu-Natal. If you are familiar with Inanda, you know that it is one of the poorest sections in eThekwini. This particular section is bordering KwaMashu. And again, KwaMashu is a very sensitive political place to be. If there's any unrest happening in KZN, it starts in KwaMashu, usually. Right, so on this road, we went from a gravel to a concrete surface. These workers here all received accredited training in unit standards that related to the work that was being done. At this moment, they had already done sidewalks all along this lane here. They had done some excavation. This excavation was done by hand. Okay? And they are currently completing it. Right, so next slide, they were laying down curbs, curb and channel. Now these curbs were not in fact bought from a large supplier. These curbs were manufactured on an adjoining road about half an hour's drive further west, I believe, that were manufactured on site by an emerging contractor in conjunction with workers from the local community who also received training, who at the moment, I think the curb yard that was established on site has been handed over to the local community. So as a client, the Department of Transport saved some funds in transferring those curbs across site. And in terms of development, it was a great development both for this project and the other one, because it encourages convergence within the client body.
Okay, thanks everyone. Good afternoon. It's unfortunate that we have the graveyard shift, but hopefully the topic is engaging and everybody is still wide awake. and suffering from sugar rush from the dessert. So I just want to say thanks to the committee for the invitation, for the opportunity to speak. It's always great to speak at young engineers or young professionals conferences, and it gives one an opportunity to be vulnerable as well. So just allow me, in the sharing of some of my personal experiences, just to open up. I've read somewhere that the new buzzword in terms of leadership is people that are able to be vulnerable. So I'm going to try some of that today. So yes, we can deal with the elephant in the room first and foremost. So this happened 2 weeks or so ago and has been the topic of discussion amongst industry. I was actually quite surprised. I met with a couple of friends last week who are not even in the engineering industry, and they were talking about this article because it was discussed on 702, it was on Sunny Times. So, I mean, gender diversity has always been an issue, but for it to come out like this in terms of engineering, when we are trying to promote engineering as a career for young girls to take up maths and science and do engineering, I think it was quite disappointing, the tone of the article to start with. So the words I've been hearing from different people I've been speaking to, some are very angry, some are indifferent, some are disappointed, they say politely, some are asking in which age are we living in, did we suddenly hit reverse, and some of us didn't realize it. But what's quite interesting is that there were quite a few people who says his opinions are not unique. It's just that he was brave enough to say them, and that's even more scary. So he survived. I don't know how, but we carry on. So it's interesting to see what some companies have done in terms of open letters to CESA, and some organizations have done. Now that the discussion has started, I think it's up to us to carry on. It's an opportunity for us to have these difficult conversations that we've been struggling to have because somebody has now broken the ice. So we need to use this, in a way, see the glass half full, to say the discussion is now open, and let's leverage on it. So I'm on a hashtag, stereotypes must fall. So what types of stereotypes are we talking about? To start off with, that engineering is a man's job. Young girls are being told that engineering is a dirty job. Do you want to wear boots and overalls and do this? It's not a womanly, a ladylike job. And that discourages a lot of people, forgetting just how broad engineering is. And it doesn't end with site work. There's just so much more. There's engineers who will never be on site and still professionally register and do amazing things in terms of, I don't know, IT space. So that's one of the stereotypes that must fall. And then in our CEO's words, women are too agreeable for executive roles. Now, I mean, you can look up agreeable in the dictionary. It will tell you it's about being polite. It's about hearing other sides of the story. It's you know, in terms of pulling everyone's views all together and making a considered approach, some agreeableness is actually a good characteristics that a lot of men should actually have. But in terms of whether that makes you weak, when all facts are on the table and when the technical status is high, of course you'll still make the good decisions and not blow with the wind as it goes. That raising kids is just a woman's sole responsibility, and this is quite a difficult one because this is how we've grown up. We've seen our mothers drop everything when there's events at school. There's, I don't know, whether you're sick. I mean, I stand here today. My 2-year-old son is in hospital, was admitted on Monday, and just coming here today, the phone calls from my mother-in-law, from my my stepmother on, are you struggling with work-life balance that you have to go there today? I'm like, no, I've got a co-partner who is also a parent to this child, and I've got a helper who can do this. There's just some engagements, some balls that can't be dropped at times, and those still carry on, because that's exactly why we have two parents, to help each other and to carry out life activities together. And it's important for kids to know that they can depend on their fathers too. So if we're going to carry on taking on that responsibility without carrying them along, and they think that it's okay, can carry on as it is, we are actually hurting our kids in future, because they'll grow up to be those individuals as well. The stereotype that women are not fully committed to their careers, that they have less appetite for hard work. I mean, you look at a lot of organizations that have like female CEOs. I mean, MPA is an example. Clearly, women do have an appetite for hard work. Clearly, a lot of women work harder. In terms of managing work and managing home and staying on top of everything, that already tells you that we have a great appetite for hard work. If someone chooses to take a break for whatever reason, I mean, some men take sabbaticals to I don't know, pursue other interests, that should not be seen as a weakness. It's a break for a reason, and you come back stronger and you carry on. It's not about a certain appetite for work. Actually, then also a stereotype that men do not want to promote women, that it's an old boys club that they want to keep tight. And in a sense, that's not completely true. There are some men like that, but there are also some really, I don't know, fair men, as should be, out there, who want to take women along. In terms of opportunities that I've been given, I've always had a male boss, and I've always been thrown in the deep end, given opportunities equally similar to my male peers. So I would say, to me, this all boys club I haven't personally experienced. So maybe it's a stereotype that must also fall, that it's all men who actually want to hold onto these positions. That there's a glass ceiling, that we're all, I don't know, wanting to fight, and we want to break the ceiling, and sometimes it's not there. So to try and create or make glass ceilings where there aren't could be to your own detriment. As well as this queen bee, they term it the queen bee behavior, where they say that some women climb the ladder, and then once they're on top, they just push the others down because they want to, I don't know, this tokenism of being first woman CEO, first woman this, first woman that, whereas the strength in collaborating and supporting each other and actually rising together. So these are some of the stereotypes I've said must fall. Of course, if I spoke to a few of you, there'll be many more on the list, but this is what I wanted to talk about. So, like I said, I'd like to be vulnerable today, and I think it's a safe space. So my experiences as a working mom of two. So first of all, when I graduated from tax, a professor of mine, which I highly respect, I still respect, gave me some advice which puzzled me. He said, when you go to work, be polite to the secretaries and the admin staff, but do not be friends with them. You understand? And I said, no, I don't. He said, once you become friends with them and you are with them tea time, lunchtime, everywhere, then you will be treated as one of them, and you should differentiate yourself. And that was a bit hard for me, because there's some things that come naturally. I mean, loving comes more naturally than hating. Making friends comes more naturally than not. And to try and now suppress those feelings, then you're trying to be something you're not. And why would they treat me like a secretary if I'm not doing secretarial work, for example, if my technical skills are speaking for themselves? But he wasn't far off, because I've seen other people experience that. But it's something that needs to be dealt with. As a mom of two, I find that as much as I contribute as well to my household income, what do they say? Bring home the bacon and make it. I still find that a lot of the household responsibilities falls on me. For example, if I go away on a site assignment or something, the amounts of phone calls I'll get in terms of, so is it sports day bag today, or so what do I put in the lunch bag? So I'm still doing a lot of the managing even when I'm physically not there, because it's something I've done naturally that my husband has now had to not learn. So he doesn't need to know which day is soccer, which day is swimming, because I know it. He doesn't need to know what is running out in the grocery, because I know it. So, and sometimes I deliberately try and switch off and see if anybody's going to die. Say, I'm not available, you sort it out, you see what happens.